Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer. It is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today, I wanted to go through the Day 3 spoiler information that's been released for the Heist League, which is going to include a couple of new alternate quality gems and a new alternate version of a unique item, as well as this FAQ number 2. So this is the second version of the Heist FAQ. It adds in a few new questions. The first one contains different questions, and I discussed that in my Day 2 spoiler video, which I'll link below. The Day 2 video was quite long. I'm going to try and keep this one shorter. Additionally, the link to this will be provided below, so go and have a click on that if you want to just read it. But do contracts, markers, and blueprints drop in other league areas such as Betrayal, Safe Houses, and the Temple of Atzilatl? Yes, they do. The way that I read this is that essentially the contracts and blueprints will drop anywhere that you could get a map to drop, except of course they can drop at lower monster levels as well. So while you're doing the storyline, they can drop. But then once you get to endgame, anywhere that you could have got a map, you could also get a contract or a blueprint. I'll have to find that out to be certain, but I think it'll be interesting to see just how many of these we wind up getting. I'm getting a sense though that we're going to have a lot of contracts. One thing you can do at endgame is you can use the unique watchstones that drop from Cirrus the Awakener to raise a map up to as high as tier 19. And I think it'll be interesting to run a number of tier 19 maps and collect contracts and blueprints from them, and then see if they provide any unique rewards. We'll have to find that out. Will rogues have juicy banter and dialogue between each other like members of the Syndicate did? Yes. Our narrative designers, Nick and Matt, have put a huge amount of work into the writing of Heist. I know there was a great joke post on Reddit about this, and I still want to see the developers set up Ithit Fled on a date with one of these new rogues, just as a totally stupid little thing. But anyways, that's just me being silly. That's not anything that will make the league better. That will just give me a little bit of a laugh. How do Thieves' Trinkets work in a party? The effect of the trinket is tied to the person, so whoever opens the chest or makes the kill will have their trinket in effect. It's not tied to the ownership of the heist. So this will be interesting. It may mean that there'll be some unusual dynamics in party play here. I think that this will be really powerful for organized groups, where you might have one person who has a trinket that modifies scarab drops, someone else has a trinket that modifies map drops, someone else has a trinket that modifies gem drops, and you just have it so that the person with the scarab trinket opens any chest that you expect to contain scarabs. That will end up being a loot multiplier for party play. Have any updates about the previously announced Stash Tab folders and Tab Affinity system? This has been delayed because partly Auckland has been under a coronavirus lockdown again recently, and also because this is the sort of thing that if they stuff it up, it would be an absolute disaster. So this is probably not going to be ready for launch day. Can I use a Delirium Orb on my contracts and blueprints? Now, this is a definitive no. We don't yet have an answer to the question I'm curious about, which is other exotic mapping currency. I want to know, can you use a Bloodstained Fossil to get a contract that is filled with Vaal areas and has a 10% chance for every item that drops there to be Crangled? We don't know this yet. I think that those sorts of exotic mapping currencies might be worth using on blueprints if this is possible. I don't yet even have confirmation that we can craft blueprints, so we'll have to find that out. So the key thing is, do they count as maps? We don't know if they count as maps or if they're their own unique objects, but they can't be delirious. Where can we find out more about the new skills and reworks? Next week, there'll be more in-depth reveals about these. The day after the patch notes are posted, we'll also share our usual post, which showcases new and changed gems at level 20 with 20 quality. We have not yet locked down our plan about how many of the alt quality gems we'll reveal before launch, but it's likely we'll showcase them somehow. And if we do this, it will likely be as a table, because putting 900 gem links in the format of the other gem post is going to be crazy. Really agree with this idea. A table that showcases what the current effective quality is and what all of the alt qualities does would be a simple way of communicating all this information, and then would allow players to go through it and have a look at every support gem that they already plan to use, as well as all of the support gems that are compelling on the skill, but that don't quite have the numbers. So let's say, for instance, if you were playing a physical Impale Cyclone character, you'd have a look at the alt qualities on Cyclone. You'd also have a look at the obvious things like Impale support, but then you'd also look at whatever is on your short list of support gems. So you might think that your normal support gems would be things like brutality support, maybe melee physical damage support, but you might also have on your short list Bloodlust support. And you'll go and have a look and see, oh, is Bloodlust support's alternate quality good enough to put it over the line? No, it's not. Okay, I'm not going to use it. After you trigger the alarm in a heist, is it possible to kill all the guards? The guards are effectively infinitely spawning. Your best bet is to get out as quickly as you can. The guards provide experience or items on death. Yes, but you can't farm them forever because they stop providing experience and items once a certain number have been generated by that spawner. So this solves all of the concerns I had about this mechanic. It means that these monsters are going to be worth killing, but there's not going to be any real abuse cases there, because ultimately that sort of gameplay gets dull quickly. Will alt quality gems have labels that indicate what attributes are different? Yes, there's a line that will say alternate quality, and you'll be able to view the alt quality stats separately if you hold alt. That's saying too many alts there. Maybe I should use an orb of alteration on the wording that I'm using there. Will item filters be able to detect that they are a variation of the regular gem? Yes, they'll be listed as extraordinary rather than superior. This is a really good idea. I would rather, though, that they had that instead of extraordinary, that they all had an individual name. That may, however, be too much work to get done before it starts. Can heist enemies be raised as spectres? Yes. Do markers drop in stacks? Yes. The understanding I have is that about as often as you receive an Orb of Alchemy as a drop, you'll get a bundle of markers. So that bundle, we don't know how big a bundle it'll be. It might be 10, it might be 30, it might be 70, but they will drop, I think, about as often as Alchemy Orbs, and so they won't be onerous to pick up. We'll have to see, though. I could be wrong. How common are markers compared to other currencies? Fairly common. You'll be able to store them in stacks of 10,000 in your inventory and 50k in your stash. This may get subject to change. Are the reward options from curio display rooms equally weighted? You're as likely to get a room full of trinkets as you are to get any of the other heist reward types, and it's possible to tell what type of curio display room you'll get before you start the grand heist. However, of course, there will be heavy weighting within these categories. So, for instance, I would expect that amongst, say, the strong rares with body armor enchantments, some of those enchantments will be common, some will be very rare. For replica unique items, there'll be some of them that will be tier 1 rarity, some will be tier 4 rarity, and you could expect to get maybe 8 copies of a given tier 4 version for each of the tier 1s that you get. Okay, how many rewards are available within the curio display rooms? There are multiple display cases to choose from, which vary. You'll have to select the reward you want to take from the cases and forego the rest. You'll be able to see the item's full details before you make the decision. So this is going to be a pick 1 from 5, not a pick 5 from 5. Is there time pressure to make this decision? No, unless there's a lockdown in progress. Can I escape the heist by logging out? Yes, you can, but you won't have completed it unless you escape legitimately with the artifact. Your contraband and artifact will be dropped on the ground as you log out. So that means that essentially logout macros are not going to save your loot in this situation. Will I automatically pick up markers? No. If I'm disconnected, will I be able to rejoin my heist? Yes, if the alarm has not started. No, if the alarm has. Will playing in a party increase the number of markers I receive in a map? Yes, as per standard increased item quantity. Can maps drop in heists? Not from regular monsters, but you can find them from reward chests and from bosses. So think of that as being like the Delve Mines. You do get some maps in there, but there are not nearly as many as you would get by killing a comparable number of monsters in a normal map. When you recast the same curse, will it trigger Doom Blast? Yes. Ditto for replacing it with another curse. And where they say replacing with another curse, they mean causing the first curse to lapse because you exceed your curse limit. Will replica unique items get a space in the unique stash tab? Yes. Can you portal out of a heist if you need to trade? No, but you can between wings in a grand heist. So essentially, this will be like the Delve Mines in that sense. If you're running a heist in a party, at what point do you trigger lockdown? And this will be when you smash the case that contains the artifact. So it will apply equally for party members, even though multiple artifacts are dropped if you have multiple party members. Your alert level is also shared. Can you take 5 trinkets to a vendor and trade them for one that is not corrupted? No. So this works like a few other cases along those lines, like breach rings and talismans. Okay, so that's the FAQ covered. Then we have the replica version of Tukahama's Fortress. Has the same sort of life mods. You can cast an additional brand instead of +1 to maximum number of summoned totems. Now, +1 max brand is not as powerful a mod as +1 max totems, so this is not looking as strong so far. 20% increased critical strike chance per brand, and 40% increased brand damage, as opposed to 40% increased totem damage and 300 armor per summoned totem. So we're looking at essentially this being... I consider this to be weaker than the original, but of course, because it's for a different build, the previous builds would not have even considered Tukahama's Fortress on their build. They would only consider the replica if you're a brand build. And I think it's probably a pretty serviceable unique item on a brand build. I don't think it's going to be something that people are going to go gaga over. Not every unique item is particularly great, but this one's at least compelling to use even if it doesn't get there. Next up, we have the other change that was made, which is the reveal of Blade Vortex alt quality. 1% damage leached as life. This is unconditional. This is all damage. So whatever you're doing with the damage, whether that be scaling physical damage, whether you're scaling chaos damage through Eternity Shroud shenanigans, or whether you're doing something more common like scaling the damage of your scaling elemental damage, this is going to provide a significant survivability buff. Life Leech, remember, can provide you 20% life regeneration as long as you're hitting enemies frequently enough to cap it out. And Blade Vortex is a sort of build that does do a lot of small hits, and as a result is able to keep this up. One Blade Vortex build, however, will get nothing out of this, and that build is the Assassin Poison-based Blade Vortex, or for that matter, just Poison Blade Vortex in general, because you won't leech the life from the damage your poisons do, you only leech life from hit damage. So I think this is solid, but it's not for every Blade Vortex build. Chieftains in particular will like this. The fire damage chieftains fire damage Blade Vortex chieftains will definitely find some use from this. Faster projectile support. This one's interesting. Projectiles have a 60% chance to return to you from final target. Now, this is one of those mechanics that is like it's on a weak support gem. Faster projectile support is not a strong support gem. So that's the reason that I don't think this is all that great. But chance to return is kind of cool. It is used after all forks and all chains and all pierces have expired, so you get absolutely no benefit from this if you have infinite piercing, just like you would get no benefit from forking or chaining. But it's a mechanic that can cause monsters, if in conjunction with chaining, it can cause monsters to take additional hits, like for you to have additional damage projection, essentially. I don't think it's good enough. I don't think that faster projectile support is good enough to use in the current state of the game, and I don't think that this gets it over the line. The key problem with this gem is the opportunity cost. 29% increased projectile damage really needs to be 29% more projectile damage for this to be worth using. As it is, this is just one of those damage projection gems that's not good enough. You would rather use forked project damage or chained project damage, or awakened chain if you've got the resources for it, over this any day. Anyways, that's the information that's available so far today. If you've got any comments or questions, fire away below. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you have a good one.